Hello and welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. I see our numbers starting to climb, so we'll wait until we level off. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Alrighty, well, I'm seeing our numbers start to level off. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, again for joining today's webinar for Better Buildings, Better Plants. We are dedicated to bringing you the latest actionable insights from leading industry experts. The Better Buildings, Better Plants webinars are an opportunity really to explore different topics, technologies, and trends that affect your organization. If you go to the next slide. Today's webinar is titled Built to Last, Strategies to Strengthen Critical Infrastructure. And before we get started, just a couple housekeeping notes towards the top. Please note that today's webinar will be recorded and archived on the Better Buildings, Better Plants Solution Center, and we'll follow up when that recording and the slides are made available. Next, attendees are in listen-only mode, which means that microphones have been muted, but if you do experience any audio or visual issues throughout the webinar, please go ahead and send a message in that Q&A box located at the bottom of your Zoom panel, and our tech support team will be in touch. Next slide. My name is Bree Colin, and I have the privilege of serving as today's moderator for this webinar and as a program lead on the building side of the Better Buildings, Better Plants initiative. Next slide. We have a great lineup for today's webinar. We'll start with some interactive polls, and then we have wonderful speakers representing Agnes Scott College and the University of Kansas Health System. Finally, we'll close with some Q&A and some programmatic updates coming from the Better Buildings, Better Plants initiative. Next slide. We'll be using an interactive platform called Slido. So folks could take a moment to go to www.slido.com on either your mobile device or by opening up a new window in your browser. Today's event code is #DOE. And if you'd like to ask our panelists questions at any point throughout later presentations, please do so, and we'll be answering those questions towards the close of the webinar. You can also have the option to select the thumbs up icon if you'd like to upvote certain questions, and that'll result in those most popular questions rising towards the top. If we go to the next slide, we could start off then with our polls. Please join us over again at Slido and start responding to those initial questions. If you have any issues again, please go ahead and message our tech support team using that Zoom Q&A functionalities. All right. I think we're waiting just for the first poll to populate here. Folks may be able to see it on their screen. If you could take a moment to respond to that initial question of getting to understand who's in our virtual room on the landscape of today's webinar and what sector best describes your organization. See, folks are off to the races. We have a catch-all other category as well. If folks don't see their sector, we see we're already having strong representation from our higher education folks, state governments, not to be discounted. Here comes industrial. Wonderful. We have some utility folks, showings from our contractor consultant community as well. Thank you for all being here. It's great to see this different variety. All right, we can go to the next question. Similarly, in that vein, if folks can enter in information about what role they hold within their organization, that can help us understand the different functionalities and responsibilities that folks may have related to those sectors. We have a really fun word cloud visual here, seeing them roll in. We have a lot of great showings from energy engineers, sustainability practitioners, grant managers, resilience planners. Makes sense too with today's topical focus. Wonderful. Energy analysts. Thanks for folks for taking some time to enter in that information. All right, go to the next question. Now, this next question is getting at helping understand the scale of operations that folks may manage in their organization. So, if everyone could take some time to enter in the type of range of square footage that's managing your organization's operations. If you don't know, that's okay. And if folks work with multiple organizations, they can enter in an average range that they help support. This is great just to get to see the scale and then potentially those differing systems that would be encompassed within it. 1.2 million square feet, a great range here. Something between 10,000, 500,000 square feet, 3,000. Great. Thank you all for entering that. We can go to our next question. Next, we want to understand what successes your organization has experienced related to today's webinar topic on reliability planning and measures taken to strengthen critical infrastructure. These could be things like, have you had experienced success with certain technologies that have been implemented? Potentially also looking at your organizational, have you had successes around making the business case for certain measures and technologies? Having supportive team that's ready to learn, definitely key there. If there's any certain technologies too that folks have had success with. If others are also working towards being proactive in that planning and measures taken and finding that support across the organization. Wonderful. Seeing a lot of great variety, success around microgrid development, improve reliability through redundancy and ensuring that continuous operational infrastructure, ensuring that durability. Around fault detection and diagnostics. Yes, the importance of those controls. And with a lot of those critical operations, that continuity is really crucial. And the planning toolkit for community is great. Funding, yes, always crucial to make sure these operations get projects off the ground. Working closely with those maintenance teams, yes, that coordination can't be understated enough. Wow, this is wonderful. I get to see all these successes too across the board. Great. Give folks another moment or so to respond to that question, then we'll go to our final one, but we'll pause here for a moment. Indoor air quality improvements. Yes, that's helpful to get to see some of those follow-on benefits. The design phase replacement for campus steam plants. Great. Certain themes rise towards the top here around maintenance, operations and maintenance functionalities, and the interconnection in which communities are situated, organizations are situated. Great. We can go to our final question here. And on the flip side, what challenges have your organization experienced related to reliability planning and measures taken in looking to strengthen that critical infrastructure? Has it been some pain points around certain technologies or research to understand the landscape of certain technologies to implement? It's not surprisingly seeing some themes rise around funding and financing. Folks maybe had experienced challenges of garnering internal financing mechanisms or external, looking for collaborative opportunities there. Costs, utility redundancy, potentially collaboration with local utilities as well. Research, yeah, that makes sense. Research and development funds. Maybe kind of gets at making that business case to folks' leaderships for a lot of that. I know we've heard some challenges around different organizational structures and that lack of staff and that capacity and education barriers. Great. Thanks for folks for taking a moment or so to continue entering in. Mistakes, maybe lessons learned too along the way, unanticipated challenges that may arise, and trying to think as much as possible ahead of the game for that, and knowing that certain challenges will arise too throughout. Motivation to improve that long term reliability and resilience. Wonderful. We'll give a final moment here and then we will transition. Buy in. Great. All right, we can go to the next slide. Thank you, everybody, for taking time to enter in those polling information. I know it's helpful too for our speakers, for presentations, to get to understand that landscape of who's in the room and similarly what successes and challenges they've experienced related to this topic. We have wonderful presenters that are joining us here for today's webinar. Kimberly Reeves from Agnes Scott College and Nick Burke from the University of Kansas Health System. We'll transition first to the next slide with Kimberly Reeves. Kimberly serves as the Executive Director of the Center for Sustainability at Agnes Scott College, based in Georgia. Kimberly, we're thrilled to have you here with us today. I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for being here today to talk a little bit about our resilience plan. I'm Kimberly Reeves. Like Bree said, I work at Agnes Scott College. We're a small college located in the city of Decatur, right outside Atlanta, Georgia. Maybe for those who also entered in amount of square feet that they manage, we're about over 1 million square feet of buildings on campus, sitting on 100 acres. Next slide. So really today we're talking about this partnership between the city of Decatur and Agnes Scott College. Really want to overemphasize that resilience truly is fostering community and strengthening community through communication platforms and through frameworks to provide resources and access for our residents, but also for all of the organizations and companies that call City of Decatur home, whether you come here to visit, whether you live here, whether you work here, whether you learn here, really wanting to make sure that we are engaging all of our community members and becoming adaptable and flourishing in those phases of change. So these are all different pictures that we've captured through the years of implementation. And being a higher ed institution, we really emphasize engaging our students and young professionals in this professional development and workforce development opportunities. Next slide. So kind of getting to know us a little bit. So our partners in this project, City of Decatur, is known as one of the most densely populated cities in Metro Atlanta, over 25,000 residents and about 5 square miles. Just like City of Atlanta, a city in the trees, over 57% tree canopy coverage citywide. And also something new as of this year, City of Decatur also received the UNICEF Child Friendly City designation, one of only 3 cities that has this current designation. Again, emphasizing engaging youth in these conversations of how where they live impacts what they're able to do and where they're able to go in their pursuits. So next slide. Agnes Scott College, like I mentioned, we're a small college located in the city of Decatur. We have about 1,000 undergraduate and graduate students, primarily residential, founded in 1889. We've been named the most innovative liberal arts college by U.S. News and World Report 8 years in a row, and really point towards our sustainability and climate action goals as part of that innovation that sets us apart. We've signed on to the American College University President's Climate Commitment in 2007 and set our carbon neutrality date of 2037. And as of last fiscal year, have reduced our footprint by over 52%. So we're very excited about all the efforts in energy efficiency, renewable energy sources. We have two geothermal systems that support about 10% of our campus HVAC. And then really want to highlight what we're talking about today, that we added the resilience commitment in 2015. So really the kind of kickstarting this conversation with the city of Decatur. Next slide. So a little bit of background, and maybe I should also say throughout this presentation, I'll talk a little bit about the background of this unique collaborative partnership, a quick overview and timeline of the planning process, and where we're at in terms of implementation, some highlights from our working subcommittees, and then also towards the end, some key takeaways and strategies that we found really helpful. So thinking of what kickstarted us here, so Second Nature originally was that American College and University's President's Climate Commitment, really wanted to emphasize that we're already seeing these disruptions and extreme weather events currently. And so what can we do to start to build in those systems of framework and resources and support? And so as part of that in 2015, when they added on the resilience commitment, they emphasized that campuses should be doing this in partnership with their local municipalities. So really want to point towards that framing, right? Agnes Scott could have created their own resilience plan. City of Decatur could have created their own, but really this opportunity to have these conversation and build capacity has really been such a great opportunity for us and has resulted in a lot of things that we wouldn't have been able to do as solo organizations. Next slide. So a little bit about our plan. We really wanted to leverage that power of community and collaboration. If feel free to read it. It's a link is available on our website to the entire plan, and it's 75 plus different goals. Of those 75 different goals that we've identified, 40% of those were already existing things that either the city or the college are doing. We really wanted to look at this as an opportunity not to add more to plates, right? We're already so full with what we have in terms of responsibilities, and so rather acknowledging what we're doing and then using resilience as a lens to be able to continue to build capacity and use what we have in terms of resources and staffing. Next slide. So a little bit about the timeline, just want to make a note that yes, we started this conversation in 2015. So we've been doing resilience work. We've been talking about resilience as a program and as a priority since then. So for the past 10 years, but really with the hope that what we've done and the resources and frameworks that we're building can be shared so that others don't have to spend 3 years discussing what does this look like, right? You can see from 2015 to 2018, there were conversations between our president of the college at the time and our current mayor of the city of Decatur of what does it mean to be a resilient community? What does it mean to have this partnership between a local municipality and a higher ed institution in this way? What does governance structure look like, right? How do we even get started? And so hopefully those conversations, if you're interested in doing this type of collaborative partnership, already you have something to build off of, right? It doesn't need to take that long. So one of the most important steps, though, I would argue, is completing a vulnerabilities assessment, right? We all live in different regions, have different ecosystems and climates. And so acknowledging that our vulnerabilities will look different than even our neighbors down the road from us or even across Metro Atlanta. So uh, completed our vulnerabilities assessment in 2018. So you can see our top 5 vulnerabilities that we've identified for City of Decatur and our community. Went on to part of the planning process, had some town halls, some remote interviews. Next slide. Uh, received the Second Nature Acceleration Grant. It's now called the Catalyst Grant, but that was really a great opportunity for us to finish drafting this grant or finish drafting this plan. We were able to hire an undergraduate student, and then she graduated during the time frame that she was drafting this to be able to complete the final plan. So again, back to workforce development, really engaging our young professionals in these opportunities so that they can continue to pull these forward into their careers current day. Com Officially completed the plan in spring of 2021. And so since summer of 2021, we've really been in implementation. Next slide. So, wanted to acknowledge all the people who make this work, right? So, even though the partnership between the city of Decatur and Agnes Scott started as part of conversations between those two organizations, Columbia Theological Seminary, City Schools of Decatur, GIPL, Georgia Interfaith Power and Light, All In for Decatur 100, and DEMA, DeKalb Emergency Management Agency, all have been strong partners from the beginning as part of the planning process and now through implementation. So really want to emphasize that what started with our president and the mayor really has continued to build out strong communication and support networks across not only different departments within these organizations, but also across organizations within our community. Next slide. So we really talk about our working subcommittees. They're the ones in terms of our governance structure. They're the ones who are really starting to move some of our projects forward. So a couple of highlights from these different subcommittee works. We have now a network of heat sensors across our city. This has now elevated as part of a partnership with Atlanta Regional Commission to create a digital twin to be able to run scenarios so we can identify, prioritize locations for heat mitigation strategies and utilize our resources wisely. We've also conducted weatherization workshops with other local organizations like South Face Institute and MLK Service Project to continue to support our older residents in the city of Decatur to age safely and comfortably and affordably in their homes through weatherization, volunteer opportunities from community members. Flooding and green infrastructure started really looking at stream monitoring to determine different locations that we can integrate green infrastructure. Emergency management and preparedness. We've hosted trainings. We've produced data analytics, looking at implementation of extreme heat plans for our employees that are impacted the most during summer months, and then communications and assessment, increase community awareness through consistent messaging so that people know about this and are asking about it and are engaged. And so, as you'll kind of see as a theme through some of these initiatives, really what implementation has looked like for the past 5 years is establishing these communication networks and really trying to make sure that we have data collection in process. So we have foundational information. So when we're making decisions and we're starting to implement new things, we can look back and show improved progress. We also really have been looking at capacity. So all of these different projects have involved a student in some capacity, either through research, advocacy, implementation, facilitation, whatever it might be. And so ensuring that there is that intentional connection is really important. But also in terms of mentorship and support, knowing that each semester might look a little bit different, bringing on different part-time students throughout this work also takes additional level of support and capacity. So really trying to be intentional about that and thinking through kind of some next steps for our resilience planning. We recognize that at the 5 year mark, we're already ready to have some sort of update. And so do an updated vulnerability assessment to ensure what we were thinking in 2018 is similar to what we're thinking present day, looking at mitigation strategies that are specific to those updated vulnerabilities, and then some sort of financial analysis of those proposed mitigation strategies. So we're at the early stages of what that looks like. Again, recognizing that most of what implementation for us has been that foundation of how do we talk to each other, how do we communicate with our broader community, and then what does capacity building and data reporting look like for us. Next slide. So really some key takeaways and strategies. Focus on those partnerships, right? So I would say when I started in this role about 3.5 years ago, really strong partnership with the sustainability professional at the city of Decatur. And now we have built out a network across departments. And so we've presented with so many different people, like our lifelong community manager, with our city fire, with our city naturalists. And so really thinking about this as an opportunity to engage people that aren't your true peer, and recognizing what capacity building that has. In terms of capacity building for funding, if you recall back to a couple slides ago, right, there's so many different organizations that are part of this ongoing partnership, and one that we're going to continue to invest in and maintain, that opportunities for one group to take the lead on a funding opportunity that maybe others don't have access to, but be able to support the work of everyone, has really been a great opportunity. Workforce development, I've touched on, and again, that increased communication is important and has really shown in terms of turnaround of letters of support, right? We don't have to figure out who this is, why this might align with our interest or what we might support, and rather we can quickly make decisions and move things forward, again, for those funding opportunities. I would also say I didn't touch on this as much, but happy to answer any questions. But engage emergency services early, right? Knowing what the existing frameworks and communication networks look like currently is so helpful in terms of what you're recommending to change, or where there needs to be additional support. We've been working closely with the City of Decatur Fire Department, and they've been so extremely helpful. And so emphasizing that this resilience work also reduces the impacts on our first responders, right? Fire and police are the first ones on scene in most of these extreme weather events. And so anything that we do to help mitigate that and provide resources to our community members is also positively impacting our first responders by lightening their load, or being able to prioritize other things that they need to address. DEMA, so DeKalb Emergency Management Agency, also was brought on with those partnerships with City Fire. So again, never know who you're able to kind of bring to the table with this broader network of communication and partnership building. And then really want to overemphasize leveraging existing programs. So I mentioned a little bit about MLK Service Project and the weatherization workshop. And really that came about because that organization has been around for over 20 years supporting our older residents. And so instead of trying to figure out something new to do in terms of weatherization, why not continue to partner and support local organizations that are already doing this great work. And that weatherization workshop had the intent to build out our skilled volunteers to continue to support the good work that's being done. So really excited to continue to share these different resources and best practices and lessons learned from what we've learned over the past 5 and 10 years of this project. And I think next slide will take us to questions, which I know will wait for the end. So I'll go ahead and pass back to Bree.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for sharing that important information. I think too, just getting at that importance of communications and that campus community in which folks are situated is very important. So thank you again for sharing. Next, we'll go over to Nick. Nick Burke is the Director of Engineering and Energy at the University of Kansas Health System, based in, you guessed it, Kansas. Thank you so much, Nick, for being here with us today. I will turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Bree. Yeah, so we are in Kansas City, Kansas, about a block, maybe two from our friends over in the state of Missouri. But yeah, so we're not coming from an academic background, but coming from the healthcare sector. So we're a large academic medical center, about 6 million square feet, over 8 hospitals, including level one trauma centers to various behavioral health hospitals, any number of clinics, surgery centers, radiology centers, and a wide range of facilities. So obviously, reliability is a very significant consideration within healthcare. And then we also have a pretty large footprint, pretty energy intensive equipment. And so energy efficiency uh, as a follow on to that uh, is very important as well. So next slide. So of those two, reliability is our dominant. So we are first and foremost caring for patients. So that is our mission. None of our other endeavors matter at all without focusing on reliability. So that is, we care for our staff as well, but first and foremost, we're caring for our patients. No one comes to the hospital, without needing to put themselves either being in or needing to put themselves in a vulnerable position, and so we take very seriously our job to care for them. And yeah, I mean, throughout all the different sectors that are represented here, um, you know, uh, product safety is really big. Higher education, being able to focus on the primary mission, so making sure that the systems that are supporting whatever your operations are reliable, so that the organization can focus on the primary mission. That is definitely one of those key tenets, and for us, that's healthcare. So going on to the next slide. So looking at that, really want to focus on what actually is reliability, right? So if you're in uh, you know, is it 99%, 99.9%? What does it cost to add another decimal point to that? Can you afford to be down 3 to 4 days a year? Is it just a few hours, minutes, seconds? When you get into I know industry measures, production downtime in terms of lost revenue, healthcare, in terms of patient impact, uh, which has a revenue side, but definitely in terms of patient impact is the primary. Business operations for standard business operations, and on down the line. So usually a lot of operations probably consider themselves, somewhere in the, point, 1 decimal point to 3 or 4 decimal points. You get into really critical infrastructure like, uh, yeah, even data centers probably have different metrics in terms of milliseconds, and just really no room for error because of all of the other systems throughout the country that rely on them. And so uh, the number of things that you put into that. So different strategies that come out of that, uh, depending on the type of facility, um, either designing to not have a single point of failure, so having uh, either redundant or modular designs are very important. Um, Redundancy can mean, depending on the hospital or the hospital operation, we coordinate with and collaborate with a lot of the other healthcare leaders around the Kansas City area, and some places designed to N+1, some places designed to N+2, some places designed to 2N. So there's definitely a lot of, and it depends on the system, right? So um, yeah, air handlers for critical uh, services like surgery might be a 2N type solution, whereas um, something supplying air to a clinic space or an inpatient space would be an N+1, so that there's no single piece that is gonna take a system down. We've had um, you know, places since we've implemented that where a fan fails on an air handler, and in the old days that would be, an all hands emergency situation, and anymore it is order a spare part, can maintain operations exactly as they are, and and then be able to rotate through. We've got other facilities where even for maintenance, we can take an entire air handler down, and there's enough units headered together um, that there is no single maintenance event that takes an area down for bone marrow transplant or critical patient units. Uh, those are all players. And then looking not just at the individual equipment failure, but looking upstream at sources. So making sure that utility sources are resilient and reliable, but really kind of looking top to bottom in the system in terms of as many things as can be controlled are uh, built to last, built in a serviceable way that we're taking into account planned service and unplanned outages. All of those are pretty key impacts. So next slide. Yeah, so some of the individual implications of that you see a lot of modularity, pumps, boilers, chillers, water softeners, all those things. We can achieve that through modularity, making sure that we can access any individual piece of equipment, replace it without taking the rest of the system down. Air handlers used to be designed with single large fans. A lot of air handler designs use fan arrays, like you see there in the bottom left. Even electrical UPSs can be designed with a bypass for service. So a battery system can be bypassed and maintained and not actually disrupt anything downstream of that. And so that is can be selected to be done at a very low risk time. One of the things that we also like, especially in buildings of scale, there's a huge range of facilities from 10,000 square feet all the way up to millions of square feet. So obviously, this is something that works better at scale, but makes sense anytime that you can do it as a hydronic system. So just the mass of the water in the system will lead to more stable operation. And it's also fuel agnostic. So if you're in a location where heating oil is your most economical, if natural gas is your most economical, if you wanted to switch and go fully electric, if you've got a really green grid and that's one of your driving considerations, you don't have to fundamentally redesign the system. Or if that calculus of what your fuel source is changes over time, again, you only have to work on the front end of your plant, and you don't have to redesign the entire distribution system, which is really where a lot of the investment and complexity comes in. And then one thing I just want to really um, lean on as well. So as much as we focus on, equipment and capital, there are, really significant factors in terms of the human factors. So having teams, both, designers that understand and, can work with you uh, on the principles that you're trying uh, to follow, so that they understand the basis of design, and you don't spend excessive amounts of time in design and redesign, all the way down to making sure that the maintenance operators have all the tools at their fingertips. We spend a lot of time on training all of the operators in our facilities, so that they are comfortable working in the system, in our building automation systems, and that we give them access to be able to go and do what they actually need to do to keep the systems running well, and that there's open lines of communication if there's any concern or questions about how things are supposed to operate. So, the best laid plans can be quickly laid waste by some system overrides, and so making sure that there's just kind of a continuous conversation with the team, and that they're empowered to go and own and manage the system, but that they're also that there's understanding as to that the automatic operation of the system reflects the best operation of the system. And so that there's understanding back to the design team of, what is going to be needed for resiliency, right? So that the reliability, again, like we said at the first slide, is if there's no, if the operator is overriding because they don't believe the system's reliable, working out those problems so that then the automatic sequences can actually be utilized to gain some of the other benefits of the system. So next slide. Yeah, so given that having a reliable system then can lead to lots of other efficiencies. So reliability will breed credibility within the organization. Credibility builds trust. Every business relationship from top to bottom, whether it's spelled out contract or whether it's a handshake deal is ultimately built on trust. And so if you've got a significant time investment in reliability, you can build up to a trusted situation internally and externally within your organization to go and get that trust to lead to investment of time, commitment, resources, dollars, and then that investment can go and get the appropriate success, communicating that success back, and building the team and the positive trust and credibility that virtuous cycle that can come out of that greater trust and the next round of investment to go and be able to continue successes. Success definitely does breed success, and so we've seen that. We focused on reliability projects that impacted key critical areas of the hospital when we really started about 10 years ago as well, making some of the investments and then bringing those department chairs in as partners to go and enhance our credibility within the rest of the organization so that as we enhance the reliability of lab or of surgery, then they vouched for us when we wanted to go and make improvements to the lab as we did it in the lab. Then they vouched for us when we wanted to do it for inpatient units and on down the line. And so we kind of have this continuing built up reputation within the organization that that we're a trusted player that can go and sure, that's great. Those guys go and can make efficient investments, but number one, they can go and actually manage a system effectively and reliably. So that's really where we're building trust, and I think that really partners, I think, a lot with what Kimberly was saying, that community collaboration, trying to build the team and trust all the way up. So uh, next slide. Yeah, and then with that, reliable systems can be efficient by design as another thing to focus on. So modular design again is something that is a feature for reliability, but also allows for high turn down, so that you don't have the inefficiencies uh, of the turn down performance of an individual piece of equipment. If you've got effectively an N+1 system, you've got a little bit wider pathways for everything, so there's lower stress on parts. So designing for something to be more efficient, has less friction in the system, which is lower stress on parts and makes something more reliable. The hydronic systems again is fuel agnostic, which allows you to be more flexible with your fuel source, lets you be more resilient, but also lets you be more flexible in terms of managing costs if the fuel cost balance in the region changes. And then really leaning on the capabilities of modern DDC systems. So having a strong control strategy, building that up, being able to scale that, so that for one, make sure that the system is reliable and actually responsive to all of the different changing situations that are happening throughout your operation. But the control strategy also makes the system really efficient if you go and kind of play those two together. And again, all of those, just to reiterate again, training and building the team, make sure that all of those are leveraged to their fullest so that, if the system is really reliable, you're not overtaxing your team from a labor perspective, doing constant repairs. It allows them more time to go and really learn and trust the system and trust the controls that you're putting in. So that trust again it's a capital resource, but the trust is also a maintenance resource where if the team is empowered to be able to, and supported by virtue of the other aspects of design, then they can really be a huge asset in terms of partnering and making those those control systems and efficiency strategies more effective. So next slide. So uh, yeah, so some of the strategies that we've really focused on are, in terms of reliability, the most reliable control systems are where we have one-to-one control. So we look for what's the most critical, what are the things that we're not really seeing perfect. So, if we want to control temperature and humidity, we need to control 2 points. So dedicated outside air systems go and get us that control, but then they also help us be more efficient. And so we're able to go and be able to support that, um, better control, better reliability, but also more efficient design with, a dedicated outside air system, for example, is a much more efficient system. Also happens to save, 30 to 50% versus a VAV reheat system. And if you do it in certain instances, it can cut down on capital costs just because the systems don't necessarily, your upfront top outside air systems don't have to be as large. Your plants can be a little bit smaller too. So, um, and then we can go to the next slide. And then again, given that since you're not taxing the loads as much, if you're able to put in things like a dedicated outside air system, looking at these things holistically, upfront costs are definitely a consideration, but we also see, retro commissioning, making sure that these systems work effectively and work as designed, make sure that we're not, taxing the systems by, gradual slip of performance over time. So retro commissioning can periodically can go and help maintain systems running as they're originally intended, keep everything optimized. And then when we're able to put in things like dedicated outside air systems and manage overall loads or have good control systems and manage seasonal loads, the plant size doesn't necessarily have to be as large. Seasonal loads probably doesn't affect plant sizing as much, but dedicated outside air system definitely can by 10, 20%, something like that. So it can see even some upfront cost benefits on plant sizing. So next slide. Yeah. So again, some failures are unavoidable, but the vast majority of them definitely are not. So you plan for reliability so that any one component failure is not a catastrophe for the team. And then if the team is supported by having good design practices behind them, then that'll definitely yield dividends. Next slide. All right. So again, the team is supported for reliable design, and then having all those features in there definitely give you the tools to go and be able to leverage that into efficient operation. So thanks very much, and I think we'll do some joint questions now.
Thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate you sharing more about University of Kansas Health Systems story to that effect, especially continuing to maintain those critical operations, knowing that imperative mission of the campus community there. All righty. Well, happy to transition to our Q&A. If I can invite Kimberly and Nick on our Brady Bunch. Wonderful. Great. See everyone's showing here. Happy to transition in some of these. And thank you to our virtual audience for submitting questions. Again, if you still have questions you'd like to submit, please go to www.slido.com and enter those in. Thank you again to our wonderful presenters, Kimberly and Nick, for sharing that information and your organization's story. Feel free to continue for our virtual audience upvoting particular questions. We'll go to some of the first ones here. I like some of those ones that have risen towards the top around if you could make one key recommendation to others that are just getting started in some of these planning process, what would that be? If you could start first with Kimberly, I know we moved a bit towards like broad planning and then a little bit more granular with Nick's content there, but happy to toss it over to Kimberly first.
Yeah, that is a great question. I think the first thing that was important for us was kind of similar to what Nick was saying was knowing who to assemble as part of your team, right? So almost like an assessment of who in your community, if you're trying to do a broader planning, or who at your organization level needs to be part of those conversations, and really building it that way, right? Right, trying to get everyone to the table to give that initial foundational feedback to building out your plan and building out your pathway. And then you could always I mean, that's why we have our task force and then our subcommittees. So the task force is representative of all the different organizations that are part of this. It's an opportunity for updates and an opportunity for feedback. And then the subcommittees are really where we're doing the work of moving those projects forward. So you could almost consider like who do you need as part of that initial task force to have input and to share best practices of what you're already doing so you're not recreating the wheel.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Kimberly. Yeah, I think we were talking about sometimes if you build it, they'll come. So it's nice to make sure that you have many entities involved and looking around the table of who are we missing, and are there certain organizations and entities that aren't part of the conversation, and making sure that they get involved. I know pulling together that task force and those subcommittees are no small feat, and a lot of differing opinions and different focuses of works. So important to all include those voices in the conversation.
yeah,
Great.
I really liked the vulnerabilities assessment that Kimberly mentioned. We had done something probably not as formal as that, but definitely similar. But again, focused on the resilience aspect that if you focus on, solving some of the big problems first, and what are the things that are holding the team back and keeping everybody distracted from making other changes, and just try to go and, solve one or two of the big problems first, or one of the two solvable problems first, and building those so that it creates space, to go and move down the list. But I think trying to take everything at once is usually not great. But seeing where the focus is, or where you can have a good impact, and get stronger as a team as a result of that. I think, whether that's formal or informal, I think that, where your biggest impact is to build that up.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I think really important points there. And it gets me thinking, Nick, you shared a little bit on some of your final slides there. I'm curious if there's anything that arose in thinking about the reliability planning or some of the specific technologies, Nick, that you mentioned that are implemented at your organization that didn't go according to plan and that you all learned from, that maybe weren't anticipated and was great, just lessons learned too for organizations. Is there anything, maybe starting with Nick, I know you shared some of that visuals towards the end. Is there anything that you'd expand upon around certain unanticipated elements?
I think some of the things that we've had to deal with are, um, buildings that have kind of lost the trust of their operators, so that they seem to have intractable problems that, any one solution that they go and uh, put in place just doesn't seem to make any headway. And so we've had a couple of facilities like that. And usually what's actually worked really well for that is just going back to basics, fundamentals on the drawing board. And so if we're seeing, you know we had one building that was, when we did the math on it, it was 1,000 CFM negative by design. And so we went and, found a way to, the next time we replaced a unit, we did something that would have more outside air, so that it, because building pressurization will suck in at every single crack and crevice in the building. And so any Band-Aid will make every other point of failure worse. So trying to address those kind of holistic, building things by taking a step back and looking at the big picture. We've had a few of those where it definitely helps us step back and not look at the trees, and every once in a while just look at the forest. So
Thanks, Nick. That's a really important point. It can be so easy to just get drill down into those details, and those step back are crucial there. Kimberly, I'm curious if there's anything too from your perspective. I know the broad planning aspect. If you'd had certain things arise and bringing all those entities together that didn't anticipate either. I saw we had some emergency managers too on today's webinar. You mentioned happy to expand too on that front, but I'm curious if anything too anticipated came up.
Yeah, I think and we probably should have anticipated, right? But always until it's in practice, I think I think the biggest one that's had the most impact is any sort of staffing turnover, right? Kind of back to what Nick was talking about in terms of fostering trust and building trust. If you do it at the individual level, as soon as that person leaves that role or um, uh, either they rehire or maybe opportunity to kind of pivot. I think what we've learned is that as we continue to build out these relationships, that we're building out that trust beyond the individual level, but more to the departmental or organizational level. And that's been really helpful because even if we have staffing changes, we're able to maintain relationships across the board. And then not that onboarding doesn't also take time and intentionality, but that there's already it's a mission aligned and mission driven program and it's aligned. I don't know if I mentioned it's aligned with um, so many plans from the city, like their strategic plan and their stormwater plan and their sustainability plan. I could go on. They're aligned with the college's plans, right? Our strategic plan and our campus master plan and our climate action plan. And so really being mission driven, I think is also important. So when that new person comes into that position, it's a little bit easier to get behind the why and the how they fit into the work that's already going and where they can bring their support and expertise. So I guess an overemphasis of uh, trying to move beyond the personal to person trust building, which is so important, but getting to that departmental or organizational trust.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing. I think those details can definitely be overlooked at times, thinking about a turnover plan, as well as folks that have a lot of institutional knowledge may transition. So, really important point there. I'm curious too. I know some of our questions coming in center around storage as a crucial reliability strategy and technology. Maybe starting with Nick, if you all utilize storage in any capacity, be it battery, thermal energy storage, what potential limitations or solutions have worked best on your end?
So we've definitely looked at storage, and two main systems that we've looked at in terms of storage. So one of them is battery storage. We've gotten some really extended life UPS. Our campus is really large. We'd need a couple football fields to get battery storage that would really get the whole campus backed up. Um, as an urban campus, we don't really have that. But then one of the other things that we are looking at is kind of the mid-sized facilities, some thermal storage for some of the newer chilled water storage systems, ice builder storage, I think has made some strides recently. So we can limit our peak demand with that. We've not implemented that yet, but that's definitely a serious consideration in the next year or two to try to go in, facilities that are expanding beyond their, say, maybe their transformer capacity or their breaker capacity for their chillers, ways to get expanded plant capacity. Um, and, some of it is utility management, but most of it is, really managing critical equipment outages uh, and then real peak capacity as we're seeing some extreme events. So.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Nick. Kimberly, I'm not sure. Has storage been a strategy that you all have looked at Agnes Scott College?
So not for the college, but for the city. They're currently in the energized phase of a solar array and battery storage for the recreation center, which also is used for heating and cooling centers for community members. But I think that goes back to capacity building, right? Identifying key places so we've started the conversations, but haven't had any movement yet in terms of storage, but something we're interested in.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. And thank you all to our virtual audience for engaging and submitting our questions. We'll transition now just to a few programmatic updates towards the close. Thank you again to our panelists for your insightful responses to those engaged questions. This webinar is part of our Better Buildings, Better Plants series for the winter webinars lineup. We have a great collection of presentations throughout the end of the year and early into next year. Please visit the Better Buildings, Better Plants Solution Center to learn more and register for upcoming webinars. Next slide. Speaking of upcoming webinars, we have another one next week on Tuesday, December 16th. That's titled Pushing the Envelope, Coupling HVAC Upgrades with High Performance Building Envelopes. Please join this webinar to learn more about how partners are coupling those envelope improvements with HVAC upgrades to create right-sized systems, maximize those energy savings, and make occupants more comfortable. Go to our next slide. And then finally, come one, come all, excited to announce our 2026 Better Buildings, Better Plants Summit occurring May 11th through the 13th in Arlington, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. In addition to engaging in interactive sessions, attendees can look forwards to plenty of opportunities to network with their fellow industry peers. Potentially Kimberly and Nick will be there as well to make those touch points, and also our experts throughout our ecosystem. Please subscribe to our summit email list on the Better Buildings, Better Plants Solutions Center to learn more, the latest on registration, session, travel logistics, and beyond. This site, its URL is located towards the bottom of the slide. It will be continuously updated with more information as we near the event. We hope to see you all there. If you go to our final slide, with that, I'd like to thank our panelists again for taking the time to be here with us today, as well as our virtual audience. Please feel free to contact our presenters. They've graciously provided their contact information here on this slide. If we did not have time to get to your question, and I encourage folks to follow our Better Buildings, Better Plants initiative social handles. We're hip here at Better Buildings, so we've got information shared and updates to that end. And then finally, our virtual audience will receive an email notification when today's recording, slides, and transcript are made available on the Better Buildings, Better Plants Solutions Center. And thank you all again for joining. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.